We all experience fear to one degree or another. Fear often guides us and our decisions in everyday life. We can hate or even tolerate fear, but all people are trying to avoid it. But what if our attitude towards fear since childhood was wrong, and in fact fear is not our enemy, but a powerful and faithful ally in our lives? And what if fear, as our ally, can give us magical force and lead us to awareness and greatness, through which we can gain control over our own lives? In the video, we will explain how to interact with fear and introduce the practice how to make fear your ally. This practice will help you find peace, become free and confident, and become full master of your destiny. Let's not waste another second and let's get started. First stage of practice. Accept fear. We are accustomed to perceive fear as a negative emotion, the source of which is external. Meanwhile, secret mystical knowledge says that fear is an essence, a manifestation of the force that comes from within a person and is part of us. To receive the power that is hidden under the guise of fear, you need to learn to interact with it. First of all, you need to understand that fear and horror are two different states that have nothing in common. Unlike fear, horror is always the result of the influence of external forces. One of the mystical knowledges says that fear appears at the moment when a person encounters the unknown in his life. Facing the unknown is a magical act for a person. This meeting conceals the development of unrevealed possibilities, thanks to which everyone can become more aware and stronger. This process is called learning. Fear is an indicator that the learning process has begun and that knowledge has come into contact with a person's life. It is knowledge that makes a person strong and returns to oneself the greatness of conscious life. Do you remember how the right information at the right moment allowed you to see the solution to a difficult situation? And could you remember the feeling of relief and freedom that you experienced at that moment when you overcame the current situation thanks to knowledge and decisive action? The first stage of realizing the role of fear is to accept its existence in your life and its enormous power and role, which are not hostile towards you. Fear activates attention. At the moment of interaction with fear, all five senses of a person begin to supply his consciousness with information about the current moment, and human perception intensifies many times over. The whole body begins to perceive and, as it were, radiates attention. This process is called alertness. Alertness is a state of total attention in which a person perceives clearly and is ready to act. Alertness eliminates tension. On the contrary, it brings clarity to the mind, gives strength to the physical body, and makes a person active and capable of making the right decisions. Unlike fear, horror is a purely physical state, akin to that experienced by a trapped animal given up to the fate of the hunter. This is the state of the victim and the moment of highest tension in the physical body and nervous system. Horror blocks any action, deprives you of force, and eliminates clarity of mind. This destructive condition is beyond human control and causes intellectual and physical paralysis. In horror, a person is unable to act or learn. To consider a deeper understanding of the influence of fear and horror, it is necessary to take a deeper look at the structure of man himself. Let's move on. The second stage of the practice, how to make fear your ally. Engage the will. Mystical knowledge teaches that man is a complex triple structure consisting of spirit, soul, and body. The harmonious interaction of all three links of this structure determines how harmoniously a person lives, reveals own inner potential, and realizes own magical nature. Friends, if you want to know more about the interaction of spirit, soul, and body in a person, write to us about it in the comments. To manifest one's own higher self at any of the three levels, a person needs free energy. At the level of the spirit, energy manifests itself as will, at the level of the soul as attention and interest, and at the level of the body as vitality. Like any magical act, interaction with fear requires the manifestation of will from a person. It is thanks to the effort of will that everyone is able to overcome the current situation and take for themselves the force hidden behind fear. This force can be used according to a person's needs and lead oneself to the greatness of a conscious life. The process of socialization depletes all people through poor quality food, lack of regular physical activity, and the imposition of a disordered lifestyle that deprives each person of the ability to manage own attention and interest in life at a deep level. Lack of energy prevents anyone from interacting with their spirit and makes anyone weak-willed. To enter into a union with fear and take away its force, a person needs a developed will. The absence of will subjects the individual to fear, which in turn is subject to someone else's external will. This is how a person becomes manipulated and loses control over one's own life. To learn to use the will, you need to accept responsibility for your own life and be able to choose on the path of life, among others, only those things and decisions that lead to the prosperity of both the person oneself and everyone with whom one interacts. Such an attitude towards life develops willpower in any person. Engaging the will prevents fear from becoming horror. Horror is the act of taking over an individual by an alien will and alien external forces. During horror, no one is able to perceive the situation soberly and clearly. A person who is horrified is driven by his uncontrollable imagination of how the current situation might affect oneself. One becomes a victim of fictitious and unreal circumstances. Instead of acting, a person weakly surrenders to chance and a false perception of reality. In moments of horror, an individual is deprived of awareness and that greatness that corresponds to a happy and harmonious life. Horror stupor is a dangerous state from which you need to get out of as soon as possible. The practice of getting rid of horror is relaxation and diaphragmatic breathing. As soon as you feel that you are seized by horror, do not resist, but simply observe, taking deep breaths using the diaphragm. This way you will relax. Relaxation gives a person awareness of the only true magical knowledge that is available to anybody from birth. This is knowledge of one's own death. When we relax, we feel the presence of death. Death is the most significant event in a person's life, before which everything else pales, including horror. Death dissolves horror. Observe, breathe, and relax. This will give you back control. Well, we move on. Third stage of practice. Accumulate and gain the force of fear. This stage is the final one in order to subjugate fear and make it your ally. We found out that in order to accumulate and gain force from fear, a person must develop and connect own will. Once you activate the will, you become alert and ready to take action. From the point of view of magic, action is a product of the will of man, which directs the force of fear, accumulates it and transforms it into the energy of action. By acting, you attract the force of fear and receive it as a gift. From now on, the force of fear has become yours, and fear itself has become your ally. This ally will reward you with sobriety, adequacy, and lead you to the greatness of conscious life. Engaging the will and moving to action activates in you the harmonious connection of spirit, soul, and body, in which initiates find themselves every minute of their lives, and which is the true greatness available to man as a magical being. Fear allows you to get closer to greatness and experience the state of harmony of spirit, soul, and body at a decisive moment and under the current circumstances. Practice for accumulating the force of fear. Remember the most terrible situation in your life. Since any real situation from the past has practically lost all power over you, it will be better if you create an imaginary situation that causes fear in you. Perhaps it will be a nightmare, an event that you are afraid of and always avoid, or an unpleasant and difficult conversation. Then remember or imagine the person with whom the fear from this situation is associated. Look into his eyes and evoke fear. Don't be afraid. Don't resist, but experience this fear and don't let it turn into horror. Control it with your will. You are stronger than fear. To do this, do nothing. Relax, breathe deeply through your diaphragm and observe. You are beyond the reach of fear. You are much stronger than it. Now feel how the onslaught of fear has weakened and it has stopped attacking you. Fear has transferred its force and energy to you. Feel how your heart is filled with warmth, clarity appears in your head, and lightness appears throughout your body. This means that the force of fear has passed to you and fear from the situation has become your ally. Fear is not your enemy. There is no need to be afraid of it. You need to accept it as part of your life. It actually expresses and attracts the force into your life. Interacting with fear is a magical act that engages your will. Remember that fear arises when meeting the unknown. With the help of your will and action, it gives you its force which will protect you from the onslaught of the unknown, expand your consciousness, and endow you with the greatness of conscious life. Having become your ally, fear will bring knowledge of your magical nature into your everyday routine. This magical knowledge will spiritualize your life and reveal to you the hidden facets of the world. Living in accordance with the purest and subtlest impulses from the Spirit is to find true greatness, which will make you and everyone with whom you interact happy. By gaining the greatness of a spiritualized and conscious life, you will get rid of horror and numbness and become the master of your own destiny. This is how you will win any battle.